Hello. Hello, people that are not here yet, but it's cool. I'm going to get an incense like I do. Get the night started off right. I got a special guest in the audience today. My baby sister is here. So excited. What's up? Hello. Welcome to Reading with Miss Taylor Said. And my nephew is here. My nephew Kobe is here. Welcome to Reading with Miss Taylor Said. Hey y'all. What's up? Having some technical difficulties. My ring light literally stopped working over here on the Facebook camera right before I went live. So, now I just got this huge shadow behind me, which is freaking weird, but whatever. What's up? Is that Sarante over there in Facebook? Is that Sarante? I feel like it's Sarante. Wow. I really did that, huh? Welcome to Reading with Miss Taylor Said, where the ring light just stopped working. Hey! I'm a little late because I had to cook some dinner, Hey, friend! A little late because I had to cook some dinner, but we in here. What's up, y'all? Welcome to Reading with Miss Taylor Said. We are finally on the last chapter of Adult Children of Emotionally Immature Parents. And this week, I will have y'all vote on our next book because I received a book in the mail yesterday that I'm really excited to read. It's by one of my favorite content creators. His name is Finn. And his page is Badass Counseling. And I asked him if I could read his book on my show, and he said yes. And so, fingers crossed, I can get in, But I have that book, but I also have Mother Hunger, which is very popular right now. So, we have some books that are going to tackle some childhood trauma, because that's what we do over here. We tackle our childhood trauma. Yay! But we're going to finish up Adult Children of Emotionally Immature Parents. And I'm going to go ahead and get started because I'm already running late. So, welcome to Reading with Miss Taylor Said. My name is Taylor, also known as Miss Taylor Said. And I started the show back in November of 2020. Let me move this over a little bit right now. Okay. I started this show back in November of 2020 in an effort to accomplish a few of my goals. One of those goals being that I want to be more comfortable reading aloud in front of audiences. The things that I want to do with my career are going to include me reading scripts, cue cards, teleprompters, speeches, all kinds of books. I'm going to be reading in front of people, and I'm going to have to convey it in a very particular way. So I want to start practicing that. I've been practicing that. I don't know how many episodes in we are. We gotta be at like 80 now. I don't know how many episodes in we are, but I'm practicing that way. I also want to get more comfortable with public speaking again. Public speaking is something I've done since I was in high school, so I want to get more comfortable with public speaking, and the pandemic gave me an opportunity to engage with an audience digitally so that, I can get that practice in. Are we on 82? This is episode 82. Holy crap. That's freaking awesome. That is freaking awesome. Okay, 82. Okay, 82. All right. Hey, high five myself. And the last reason I started the show is because I want to, I don't think I finished that other reason, but public speaking. That's the reason. The last reason I started this show is because, I wanted to finish the books that I actually own. I own a crap ton of books, and I actually want to read them. And it seems as though reading books that pertain to dealing with emotional maturity, childhood trauma, self-care, inventory of self really resonates with y'all, and it resonates with me as well. So I'm really happy to continue reading those types of books. I have other types of books as well, but I know I'm almost to 100. That's crazy. That is crazy. I'm so close to 100 episodes. But the books that we have that are pertaining to, emotional healing, overcoming people pleasing, things like that. I'm so excited to read those books. But, if y'all want me to explore other genres, I am open to it. We just have to figure out a way to make it so that I'm engaging with y'all as well. Because I remember one time I tried to read a history book up here and it didn't flow as easily because I couldn't stop off and talk about it without it being more like a lecture, like teaching a lecture. Anyway, let's get back into the book. We are on chapter 10 of Adult Children of Emotionally Immature Parents by Lindsay Gibson. And we have tackled so many things over the course of reading this book. But this last chapter is called How to Identify Emotionally Mature People. I'm really excited about this because I feel like this is basically going to be a checklist of the people I have in my life. And I'm ready. All right. The previous chapter explored how you can reclaim your emotional freedom by honoring your true self in your relationships with your parents and others, setting limits, and acting on your own behalf. In this chapter, you'll learn how to identify people who are emotionally mature enough to engage in a mutually satisfying relationship. I'll also discuss how you can adopt new attitudes about relationships so that you can interact in ways that will help put emotional loneliness firmly in your past. Unfortunately, adult children of emotionally immature parents can be skeptical that a relationship could enrich their life. Instead, they tend to think that rewarding relationships are a pipe dream, too good to be true. And beneath this thought, they typically fear that other people won't be truly interested in who they are. These negative expectations perpetuate emotional loneliness, but you can change them once you're aware of them. So, the first section is called The Lure of Old Patterns. Remember that John Bowlby said all humans share the primitive instinct. Let me start that over. Remember what John Bowlby said. All humans share the primitive instinct that familiarity means safety. Therefore, if you grew up with emotionally immature parents, you may feel subconsciously drawn to the familiarity of egocentric and exploitative people. Quite a few of my female clients who end up in abusive relationships distinctly remember that in high school, nice boys didn't appeal to them. In fact, they typically found considerate males boring, which unfortunately meant that if the guy's behavior wasn't selfish or dominating enough, there was no attraction. For these women, self-centered males probably stirred up uncertainty in a way that they found exciting. But was this actual excitement, or was it a shiver of childhood anxiety in response to a self-involved person who wanted to use them? One tenet of schema therapy developed by Jeffrey Young is that the people we find most charismatic are subconsciously triggering us to fall back into old negative family patterns. Young warns that this kind of instant chemistry can be a danger sign, indicating that self-defeating roles from childhood are being reactivated beneath the surface. This chapter will help you turn that dynamic around. The key is to use your newfound observational abilities to find emotionally rewarding people to connect with instead of repeating old patterns that will lead to further emotional loneliness. So, get into it. When you grew up with emotionally immature parents, like the way I view it, and I'm just going to get into my own business because that's where I draw most of my information from. But like my parents, one of my parents particularly was a bully growing up. So therefore, they behaved in that way in their home, which then conditioned their children to believe that the person that is supposed to be your primary source of love looks like a bully. Which means that when we go seeking relationships outside of our home, we're going to only see, because our vision is clouded by all of that disgusting behavior that we were trained to believe is love growing up. We go out into the world and we see other people that look like what we grew up with, and we're like, oh, those people love me. When in reality, they like having someone around that is easy to get over on. They like having someone around that they can treat poorly. And it may not even be because they consciously want to treat you poorly, but because they themselves are traumatized and and had a poor reflection of what love looked like growing up. They then act that way in their own lives. And we all get drawn to each other instead of healing and then meeting each other. But in maturing, understanding, therapy, growing, when you start breaking down the things that hurt you, you start recognizing, when you start treating yourself better and you start having a higher standard and expectation for what you believe you deserve, then you're able to find that in other people, because the way you love on yourself, you won't accept anything less than that. And so when you meet other people that love you in the way that you love yourself, you're like, ooh, let me get some of that. That's not necessary. That's rude. But I have the window open, so. Okay, so the next section is called Recognizing Emotionally Mature People. The sections that follow offer some guidelines that will help you recognize more emotionally mature people. Then, instead of unconsciously enacting old familiar patterns, you can consciously choose to connect with people who show the positive traits discussed below. Whether you're choosing someone to date, finding a new friend, or interviewing for a job, you can use the characteristics of emotional maturity in this chapter to identify people with long-term relationship potential, whether you start out face-to-face or online. Nobody's perfect, but good prospects should have enough of the following characteristics to make the relationship enriching rather than draining. Are y'all ready? Y'all ready to get into what makes an emotionally mature person? I am, but I'm going to drink some of this terrible water that I will cover up the name of because I don't want to endorse them at all. Because they're not paying me and their water is trash. But you already know with this green cap and this blue over here, what that means. Garbage water. Anyway. All right. So, the first section of recognizing emotionally mature people. They're realistic and reliable. Realistic, amen, and reliable. Okay. Being realistic and reliable may sound humdrum, but nothing can take the place of this basic soundness. Think of this first cluster of traits as the physical layout of a house. It won't matter what color you paint the walls if the structure is awkward to live in. Good relationships should feel like a well-designed house, so easy to live in that you don't notice the architecture or planning that went into it. That's a word. All right, so the first bullet. They work with reality rather than fighting it. Although they'll work to change what they don't like, emotionally mature people acknowledge reality on its own terms. They see problems and try to fix them instead of overreacting with a fixation on how things should be. If changes aren't possible, they find a way to make the best of what they've got. That's easy stuff. Easy stuff. They live in reality. Now, I myself like to live in a dreamland, and I do like to talk about how things should be. However, I recognize that that is an idea of how things should be, and I ground myself in reality of how things are. And I constantly remind myself with every little, but it should be like this thought, I challenge it with, but this is what it is, so what are we going to do? The next one says, they can feel and think at the same time. My God. Woo, because a lot of people like to act like those two things have to be separate. Especially people that are like, I'm more of a logical person than a feeler. Nah, bruh, you're a feeler. You're a feeler. You just don't want to do it. But you can do both at the same time. And if you're emotionally mature, guess what? You do both. Both of them at the same time. What's up, cuz? They can feel and think at the same time. I said that already. The ability to think even when upset makes an emotionally mature person someone you can reason with. Because they can think and feel at the same time, it's easy to work things out with such people. They don't lose their ability to see another perspective just because they aren't getting what they want. They also don't lose track of emotional factors when addressing a problem. They keep up. They keep up. What's up? What's up? What's up, dog? What's up, bruh? Anyway, yes, so you can think and feel at the same time. Because the thing is, people will have emotional reactions like getting angry or yelling or getting elevated in how they're talking to you and everything like that. And they start, and emotionally immature people just start saying shit because they're hurting and they're in defense mode, they're in fight mode, so they're just throwing shit out. They're just throwing like harmful things out there. But an emotionally mature person can recognize, I'm upset right now. I am feeling a lot of anger. So I'm going to take a moment to step away so I can calm down, or I'm going to say what I need to say and then make the conscious decision to say what you're feeling and what you're thinking without using words that harm. Okay. Their consistency makes them reliable. We love consistency. Oh, we love consistency. It's so good. Because emotionally mature people have an integrated sense of self, they usually won't surprise you with unexpected inconsistencies. Amen. You can count on them to be basically the same across different situations. They have a strong self, and their inner consistency makes them reliable custodians of your trust. That is one thing I will say about myself, because that is the only source of information that I can fully, speak to. But one thing I'll say about myself is that I really try to do my best to be the same person across all platforms and in person. Like, you might get a different filter, but I'm the same person in whatever situation you meet me in. You're not going to meet me in one situation and then see me in another environment and see two different people. It's not going to happen. You might see a more turned up version or more toned down version, but you're not going to see different people. It's going to be the same. And I think that is something that it makes the road a little longer as far as content creating, that I, make sure that I stay myself and that I don't try to do stuff that is not, that is not authentic to me, just so I can get numbers and get clicks. I'm not going to do that. And I've tried different things, and every time I try something different, it's something that I felt like trying and was authentic to me, and not just doing something because other people are doing it. And I mean, consistency in that regard, in being the same person, but also knowing that, like, you are, but also knowing that, what are you looking for? Hi. I'm doing my show right now. Can you walk that way? Yeah, walk that way. Go ahead. Go that way. Go on now. Okay, I guess you're going to be close to me. He looking for something to eat. Anyway, consistency in actions, consistency in personality, consistency is something that is going to make it so that I know that this person is going to be like that, whether I'm watching them or not. Who someone is when you're not watching them is who they really are. And I know that this person is going to be the same person, whether I'm watching them, whether I'm in their life or not. They're going to be the same exact person that they are. Okay, so the next section is called, They Don't Take Everything Personally. Emotionally mature people are realistic enough to not be offended easily and can laugh at themselves and their foibles. They aren't perfectionists and see themselves as and others as fallible human beings, doing the best they can. Taking things too personally can be a sign of either narcissism or low self-esteem. Ooh, what did I don't know names anymore. It's been a long day. Sarante, what did you say? He said, I think you do well. There's a lot of Taylor in different forms and aspects, but all of it is still you, the honest you, and I think that's beautiful. You make it clear multiple times what everyone sees truly is you. Yes, I did it. Okay. All right. So, they don't take everything personally. Emotionally mature people are realistic enough to not be offended easily and can laugh at themselves and their foibles. They aren't perfectionists and see themselves and others as fallible human beings doing the best they can. Taking things too personally can be a sign of either narcissism or low self-esteem. Both traits cause problems in relationships because they lead people to constantly seek reassurance from others. In addition, people who take things personally often feel that they're being evaluated, seeing slights and criticisms where they don't exist. This kind of defensiveness consumes relationship energy like a black hole. Ooh. Okay. So, narcissism and low self-esteem. Let me tell you. So, growing up in the city that I grew up in, you have to be prepared to be evaluated. So, that part where it says they often feel like they're being evaluated. One thing I will say is that religion, Christianity specifically, makes you feel like you're being watched all the time and evaluated for your behavior, for your ticket to get into heaven or your ticket to hell. Constantly. So it creates this narcissism where you're constantly thinking about yourself, your sins, and all of that stuff. And just like, I'm trying to get to heaven. F everybody else. I'm trying to get to heaven. And a lot of narcissists are born and bred through religion because it's a focus on a destination rather than the journey. Also, it is great breeding grounds for people with low self-esteem because they're constantly seeking forgiveness for existing. So like they think everything they do, and I've existed in this and lived in this before, where it's just like you constantly, and even in my mind, just based on how I was raised, and because I was raised within religion, I'm constantly aware that I'm being watched. And like even the way that one of my emotionally immature parents behaves, if I am behaving a certain way and it's seen by them, like say I post something on the internet, I post me wearing something that's low cut or cut off or whatever on the internet, it then is like the reaction from them is that I look like a slut, right? So it's like I have to shut off the idea that I'm constantly being evaluated and stop taking it personally because it doesn't belong to me. Somebody else's idea about me does not belong to me. My past traumatized self's idea of who I am does not even belong to present me because I'm not a part of that anymore. I am who I am today. And yes, yes. And that concept, that makes me think about the concept from when we were reading the 4 agreements in that section that's talked about not taking everything personally. Like he was saying that even your own intrusive thoughts, you can't take them personally because it's a past version of yourself that doesn't believe that, you know, you're doesn't believe in what's happening now. And it's not, again, it don't belong to you. That's why I like to do things that separate those things from me, those self-limiting beliefs and those fears and those doubts, writing them down, sticking them on the wall and leaving them to wherever the hell they gonna go, because it's not in me. So people that are emotionally mature don't take things personally. The next paragraph, I'm excited. In contrast, emotionally mature people understand that most of us can put our foot in our mouths at times. We fuck up. We're humans. We're supposed to fuck up. If you say you misspoke, they won't insist on a postmortem to uncover potential unconscious negativity toward them. Let me read that again because I feel like I rushed through that sentence. In contrast, emotionally mature people understand that most of us can put our foot in our mouth at times. If you say you misspoke, they won't insist on a post-mortem to uncover potential unconscious negativity toward them. They can see a social gaffe as a mistake, not a rejection. They're realistic enough to not feel unloved just because you made a mistake. Your mistakes are not a moral failure. And people that are emotionally mature understand that. All right. So, emotionally mature people are realistic and reliable. And we just did all the subsections under realistic and reliable. Let's see how much we have left, because I want to leave some for us to be able to read. I think I'm going to do, since I think there's 4 of them. Ooh, yeah. I am going to, we're finishing this book this week, y'all. Yeah, we're finishing this book this week. I'm going to do the, this next section, and then we'll be done for tonight, all right? Sorante said, as someone who's a Christian and who posts spicy stuff from time to time that certain family members see, I get the struggle. I tend to block it out. I like what I like, and that's a part of me. If it needs correcting or judging, I decide that no one else. Exactly. It is, you are the judge of your own life. You are the one that determines, as long as you're not harming anyone else or yourself without consent, because some people want to be hurt, you know, but but if you're not harming yourself or others, do what you want to do. Do what you want to do and do what feels right and what resonates in your body. Anyway, next section. They're respectful and reciprocal. Emotionally mature people treat other people as individuals worthy of respect and fairness. All of the following traits reveal their cooperative orientation, which will come out in how they treat you. You'll have the feeling they're looking out for you rather than being solely focused on their own best interests. You might think of these traits as being like the elements of a house's infrastructure, such as heating and plumbing that are essential to making it habitable. So, 1, they respect your boundaries. They respect your boundaries. Ooh, I can't stand when people don't respect your boundaries. They respect your boundaries. Let's get into it. Emotionally mature people are innately courteous because they naturally honor boundaries. They're looking for connection and closeness, not intrusion. For emotionally immature people, on the other hand, getting close to someone often leads to them taking the person for granted. They seem to think closeness means manners don't matter. Which is why this is why people that don't respect boundaries are not allowed in my home. Because manners don't matter to them. Emotionally mature people will respect your individuality. They never assume that if you love them, you'll want the same things they do. Instead, they take your feelings and boundaries into account in any interaction. This may sound like a lot of work, but it isn't. Emotionally mature people automatically tune in to how others are feeling. Real empathy makes consideration of other people second nature. An important gesture of courtesy and good boundaries in relationships is to not tell partners or friends what they should feel or think. Another is respecting that others have the final say on what their motivations are. In contrast, Immature people who are looking for control or enmeshment may psychoanalyze you to their own advantage, telling you what you really meant or how you need to change your thinking. This is a sign that they disrespect your boundaries. Hey, welcome in. We're reading the final chapter of Adult Children of Emotionally Immature Parents. If you emotionally mature people may tell you how they feel about what you did, but they don't pretend to know you better than you know yourself. If you were neglected by emotionally immature parents during childhood, you may find yourself willing to put up with unsolicited analysis and unwanted advice from others. This is common among people who are hungry for personal feedback that shows someone is thinking about them. But this kind of advice isn't nourishing attention. Rather, it's motivated by a desire to be in control. Yes, I love this book so much. All right, Tyrone's story. You better call Tyrone. Okay, anyway, Tyrone's girlfriend, Sylvie, frequently took charge in ways that made him uncomfortable, and lately it had been getting worse. For instance, when Tyrone wanted to slow down the relationship, Sylvie analyzed this as a sign of what she called fear of commitment. She told him that he wasn't allowing himself to see her as she was now and was instead viewing her through the lens of her past behavior. As Tyrone became increasingly unhappy in the relationship, Sylvie urged him to act happier. She kept telling him to smile more because she missed that in him. But Tyrone was missing something too. A partner considerate enough to accept his feelings and consider the possibility that her behavior might be part of the problem. Another thing that someone that's respectful and reciprocal does, they give back. Fairness and reciprocity are at the heart of good relationships. Emotionally mature people don't like taking advantage of people, nor do they like the feeling of being used. They want to help and are generous with their time, but they also ask for attention and assistance when they need it. They're willing to give more than they get back for a while, but they won't let an imbalance go on indefinitely. If you grew up with emotionally immature parents, you may face your own challenges with I got one yawn. With reciprocity, having learned to give either too much or not enough. Your parents' self-preoccupied demands may have distorted your natural instincts about fairness. If you were an internalizer, you learned that in order to be loved or desirable, you need to give more than you get. Otherwise, you'll be of no value to others. If you were an externalizer, you may have the false belief that others don't really love you unless they prove it by always putting you first and repeatedly overextending themselves for you. All right, y'all, I ain't gonna hold you. I didn't eat today, so I'm super hungry, and I already feel myself getting tired. So I'm going to read Dan's story, and then I'm going to stop, and we'll get back into the respectful and reciprocal traits when we come back on Thursday, okay? So, Dan's story. Dan originally came to therapy after the breakup of his marriage to a self-absorbed woman who exploited his generous nature and didn't give much back. In therapy, he realized that he'd sacrificed too much, violating the principles of fairness just as his wife had in taking too much. As Dan began to practice better self-care by not being overly generous, he noticed that he was becoming more interested in women who had a greater capacity for reciprocity. Still, this new way of relating felt unusual to him at first. For example, after paying for an expensive dinner with his new girlfriend, Dan was amazed when she said she wanted to treat him to an upcoming concert. "You gave me a great evening," she told him, "and I want to do something fun for you." Dan was amazed by her reciprocity and generosity, and he was also able to correctly identify it as a sign of her emotional maturity. Yeah, that last part, listen. You don't have to give more than you have to give. The only way, listen. We don't give to people that aren't giving back. We don't spend time with people that don't show up with offerings. We don't spend time with people that don't show up with offerings. We spend time with people that give, that pour into us. Because sometimes my plant needs some water. And then sometimes your plant will need some water. And we water each other. And if one person's giving all the water, they don't have any left for themselves. So, we fill our own cup first. And then we love from the saucer. We give that extra because we're creating it within ourselves first. I'm going to go ahead and end tonight. I appreciate everybody that showed up. I'm so thankful for all of you guys being here. I'm so thankful for my live audience. I'm so thankful for the special appearance from my nephew Kobe. And and I'm going to go eat some food and get some rest because your girl was at work at 8 a.m. and it is now about to be 8 p.m. and I have not stopped. So I'm going to go relax now. I'm going to go eat. I'm going to go spend some time with my sister and my nephew. And I hope that y'all have a great night. Thank you for watching Reading with Miss Taylor Said. I will be back on Thursday around 7-ish. Hopefully 7, closer to 7 than 7:30. But, you know, we going to be in here and y'all going to watch. Thank you guys. Love you. Bye.